Discover the 7 amazing secrets to transform stress into strength-inspiring journey revealed. Sarah Thompson gripped the edges of the worn-out diner table, heart racing, as she served the last plate of the night. The ticking clock merged with the buzzing neon outside, amplifying her weariness. 2 jobs barely kept her afloat. Each second stretched like the cornfields that surrounded her small Midwestern town, vast, endless, yet immovable. Somewhere in her tired soul, the dream of nursing lingered like a distant star, but the reality of bills and shifting responsibilities clouded her vision. Her father's laugh echoed in her memory as she cleared the table, but that laughter had grown quieter over the years. Since his recent illness, Sarah felt that laughter fading day by day. The stress of his hospital visits gnawed at her, squeezing her chest until breathing felt like work. Could she really carry both their burdens? At that moment, as the night shift beckoned, she hesitated, the weight of her responsibilities pressing down like a heavy anchor. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The sun dipped, giving way to the familiar fluorescent lights of the clinic. Sarah's second job wrapped her in an embrace of exhaustion. Yet here, a different kind of guilt awaited her. Each patient encounter made her question where her heart truly lay. Was it in caring for others? Or was it in the unsustainable pursuit of a fading dream? She glanced at the clock again. Time slipped through her fingers like sand. Confidence morphed into anguish as she realized the hours she poured into her father's care, and her jobs made it nearly impossible to even think about nursing school. Yet, as despair threatened, Mrs. Jenkins appeared, sharing her simple wisdom, promising transformation through resilience. 7 secrets emerged, flickering like candles in the dark, each one pulling Sarah towards something tangible. Hope danced at the edges of her mind, but beneath it all lay a wave of buried truths. One day, while sorting through some old boxes at home, an uncovered letter sent her spiraling into confusion. A family secret regarding her father's past, and injustice she'd never heard of surfaced like a ghost demanding attention. In that poignant moment, clarity and chaos collided. Should she minutely examine her father's legacy, risking the stability of the life they fostered together? Or should she protect him from a past he'd long buried? Her stomach twisted as she wrestled with the prospect of pursuing this truth, feelings of loyalty clashing against an insatiable need for justice. Each fleeting moment of calm shattered like glass under the weight of her discovery. Tension simmered beneath the surface, tearing at the seams of her heart. Would she bridge the gap between loyalty to her father and her drive for truth? Anguish crescendoed as Sarah faced her reflection one night in the clinic break room. The margins of her world blurred, futures colliding with ghosts of the past. In that delicate space, she wondered, what sacrifices would she make to find clarity? Her path forward rested delicately upon the edge of discovery, tantalizing yet treacherous. Each heartbeat echoed the decision that loomed ahead, a thing both powerful and fearsome. Standing there, she realized some journeys began with turmoil. Would she step into the storm to claim her own truth? The morning after her haunting reflection, Sarah awoke to the weight of her decision pressing down. The dawn light trickled through her bedroom window, illuminating dust motes dancing through the air. She lay awake, staring at the ceiling, a mix of anxiety and determination swirling within her. The letter, still tucked under her pillow, felt like a ticking bomb, its promise of revelation both compelling and terrifying. As she moved through her morning routine, her mind fixated on the unseen burdens she not only carried for herself but for her father as well. She prepped herself mentally, each movement methodical, as if to stave off the impending confrontation with her father, the tether that had anchored her thus far. Yet, she knew that loosening this grip required courage. At the clinic, the scent of antiseptic filled the air, a familiar, albeit strained, comfort. The patients, each with their own stories, underscored her own narrative of loss and longing. While taking vital signs, she was drawn to the story of a young mother whose laughter masked her own struggles. Watching her interact with her child ignited something deep within Sarah. A raw determination flickered alive amidst the chaos of her life. Mid-morning brought Mrs. Jenkins back into the fold, a conversation that often lightened Sarah's burden. The older woman, knowing more than she let on, seemed to sense Sarah's inner turmoil. Over steaming mugs of coffee, Mrs. Jenkins' wisdom struck a chord. Sometimes, dear, clarity doesn't come from keeping our pasts hidden but from confronting them head-on. Those words echoed as Sarah wrapped up her shift, the night ahead looming large with uncertainty. The drive home was a haze of swirling thoughts. Could facing her father really lead to the freedom she craved? Or would it destroy the fragile bond they had? The letter weighed heavy in her purse, its presence a constant reminder that truth, while daunting, might also be liberating. As she stepped into the house, Sarah felt an unexpected stillness surrounding her father's room. Guilt twisted in her stomach as she contemplated the hours she spent in service to others instead of delving into her father's unresolved narrative. It was in that moment of quiet, the world outside shrouded in night, that a resolve crystallized within her. She would confront him not just about the hidden past, but about their shared futures. How do I start? She murmured to herself, pacing the living room. Would a gentle approach invite honesty, or would direct confrontation ignite defenses? She needed to summon the courage to navigate this labyrinth of emotions. Thoughts of nursing school flickered in her mind. The opportunity to reclaim her own aspirations felt intertwined with the legacy of her father. Setting aside her fears, she realized now was the time to embrace the truth, however painful. She had spent long enough being a caretaker. It was time to seek care in return, forging a connection beyond anguish and duty. As she stepped toward her father's door, her heart raced. The moment had arrived to break the silence that had long held them captive. Would this leap into the unknown reveal peace, or would it unravel the very fabric of their existence? With a deep breath, she knocked, resolute, prepared to unearth shadows that shimmered with promise. "Dad, can we talk?" Her voice wavered slightly, the weight of uncharted territory amplifying her anxiety. What awaited them shared in that conversation would prove to be more than just a moment. It would be a shifting point of decision wrapped in vulnerability, unlocking a labyrinth of untold stories that could reshape their lives forever. The door creaked open slowly, revealing her father's weary face, lined with years of unspoken regret and unresolved pain. Time felt suspended in those few heartbeats before Sarah dared to speak again. She could see it in his eyes, the muddled emotions that mirrored her own. "Can we talk?" she repeated, her voice firmer now, shoving back against the anxious tide threatening to pull her under. With a slow nod, her father stepped aside, granting her entry into the quiet space that had become almost foreign to both of them. As she crossed the threshold into his room, a familiar scent of old books and dust embraced her, wrapping her in the faded memories of her childhood, remnants of a life once filled with laughter rather than silence. She caught a glimpse of his old photographs pinned to the wall, whispers of a past steeped in joy before shadows had settled in. "Sit," he gestured with a hand that trembled slightly. The vulnerability of the moment hung thick in the air. Once seated, Sarah knew she needed to initiate the discussion that had lurked between them for too long. But the words were like treacle, slow and heavy, inside her throat. "Dad, I found something," she began, the letter weighing on her mind like a hidden bomb, its contents prepared to expose truths long buried. "It's about Mom. There's a lot we haven't talked about. She was a good woman, Sarah," he interrupted abruptly, the nostalgia turning into defensive armor around the memories he didn't want to share. "Let us not dredge up the past." The irritation in his voice stung, sending a shock wave of determination fizzing through her. "That's the problem, though. We can't keep pretending everything is okay just because we don't talk about it. I need to understand, I need to know what really happened." Silence filled the room. His eyes drifted away from hers, as if searching the walls for answers. This was the moment she had trained for, yet it felt heavier than she ever imagined. Courage surged within her, fueled by the earlier realization that facing the truth was the only path toward healing. Every day at the clinic, I see families struggling to communicate, she pressed on. And I realize it's not just them. It's us too. I can't carry this burden alone any longer, Dad. Hiding our history isn't helping anyone. Her heart raced, not just with the fear of confrontation but with an intense yearning for connection. Beneath his complicated exterior, she sensed a tremor, a hint of vulnerability breaking through his hardened facade. She envisioned a future where they could share their fears instead of letting them fester like an open wound. He finally turned back to her, vulnerability creeping into his expression. You don't understand. I thought I was protecting you, protecting us. The cracks in his voice indicated battles he had long fought in solitude. I didn't want to have to relive the pain. Sometimes confronting what we fear is the only way to truly heal, she offered softly, leaning forward earnestly. We're stronger when we face things together, even if it's hard. His eyes flickered with hesitation, wrestling between the desire to protect her and the undeniable urge for warmth, connection, and understanding. The conversation was tiptoeing toward a precipice, asking him to decide if he would take that leap with her. As they sat in silence, the past swirled around them, heavy with secrets yet tantalizingly close to revelation. Sarah felt her own pulse quicken, a realization dawning that this was not just about her father's past but her own future. Their paths could diverge forever without resolve. Okay, he finally murmured, breaking the silence like a fragile thread snapping. We can talk, but I can't promise it won't hurt. The walls of their world felt as if they had shifted, just slightly, leaving room for truth to seep in. But would it be enough to mend the gaps that had kept them apart for so long? Sarah knew each revelation held potent answers not just to her father's past, but to her own journey of self-discovery. With the door ajar, she felt the momentum of a shared exploration begin, but also the weight of what was still to come. What would this painful discourse inevitably reveal? Would they uncover the shards of hope amongst the debris, or would dwelling in the past entangle them even further? As they prepared to dive deeper, shadows danced across the room, each spot of light drawing a roadmap of their personal labyrinth that awaited them both. Would they emerge stronger, or would the rawness of truth unravel everything they thought they knew? Let us begin then, she breathed, ready for whatever ripples of change might unfold from the truth spoken. The air shifted as Sarah's heart raced, a blend of anticipation and fear coursing through her veins. Her father sat opposite her, the weight of the years pressing heavily on his shoulders. She took a moment to gather her thoughts, the empty space between them now charged with a cautious hope. This was her chance to bridge the chasm that had separated them, to reclaim their narrative from the shadows. Dad, she said, breaking the silence, I don't want us to return to the silence that's become our default. Let us start with Mom. What do you remember about her last days? She could feel the hesitation radiating from him, physically palpable as he faced the specter of his past. With a visible effort, her father slumped slightly, and Sarah wondered if the memories felt heavier than any burden he had carried before. She was just tired, he murmured after a long pause, his voice barely a whisper. But your mother, she was so strong. Stronger than both of us. The words struck Sarah like a lightning bolt. Strength had always been a defining trait for her, her mother's legacy shaping the very core of her being. Yet, here sat the man she had idolized as a child, an equal now in their shared vulnerability, unable to connect to the strength he spoke of. It was then she realized. Strength could be a unifying force, but only if it was understood, shared, and cultivated. What do you mean by strong? Do you think her strength helped or hurt her in the end? It was an unexpected question, one that rang loud in the stillness of the room. Sarah sought not just answers, but to lay the foundations of a new, honest communication, a courage that mirrored her own. His face tightened with the question, eyes darting toward the shadows as he grappled with the implications of her words. I thought she would always be okay. I thought I could protect us by being strong myself. His voice trembled, exposing the cracks in the armor he had crafted over the years. It sounds like you were both trying to protect each other, just battling your own fears. Sarah's voice was soft yet firm. But we can't slash through the seams of our pain with silence. We need to talk about it. You need to let me in. The trust she demanded was palpable, a chord strumming between them, evoking the fragility of every unspoken truth they had avoided. Could he abandon his lifelong instinct to guard her from pain and allow healing to seep into their lives? The room felt electric, the air thick with possibility. But what if facing it only pieces apart our memories? He asked, hoping for a safe retreat but visibly intrigued by the direction they were heading. That's a risk we have to take, she pressed. What if it actually brings us closer? I see what you've endured. It's not just your burden anymore, Dad. We're in this together. A flicker of realization brightened his expression, like a distant sun breaking through layers of clouds. It was a moment she would not allow to drift away. She would seize it. You taught me to be brave, to confront the pain of others. At time we practiced that with each other? He leaned back, contemplating her words. The shift in his demeanor spoke volumes, but the discomfort still lingered in the air. Would he accept the challenge to explore this tangled web of memories, or retreat into the familiar shadows of avoidance? I need to know why she left, Sarah, he finally muttered, the desperation slicing through the barrier they had built. Why didn't she fight more? Why did she give up? The rawness in his question revealed an aching vulnerability, a wound that had remained festering. Her heart went out to him. Understanding the depths of his sorrow would mean grappling with the tides of her own emotions. Yet, it felt revolutionary, almost empowering, a mirrored reflection of the struggles she endeavored to heal at the clinic. With each word, Sarah discerned she was not just digging into her father's past, but also challenging her own assumptions about coping and resilience. She recognized this discourse could redefine the way she engaged with stress, transforming pain into strength not just for them, but for herself and her future. Let us discover the truth together, Dad, she said, determination wrapping around her words like a lifeline. The difficult journey is worth taking. As they prepared to unravel the threads of their intertwined fates, Sarah sensed they were only at the outset of a transformative expedition, one that promised to illuminate not only their shared history, but also the very essence of who they could become. How much would they be willing to uncover? And what new paths would they carve in the wake of their revelations? The questions hung between them like mist at dawn, both a promise and a looming challenge. It was clear the weight of their discussion was only beginning to unfold, and in the depths of their honesty, change awaited, ready to reshape the very fabric of their lives moving forward. Sarah's resolve crystallized with each heartbeat, steadying her inner tumult as she prepared for the probing questions that awaited them. She clutched her palms together, feeling the contrasting heat of determination and the cold sweat of fear. Change hung heavily in the air, an invisible specter that threatened to turn their long-buried emotions to vapor. But she breathed through the tension like a woman grasping for survival. Her father leaned forward, his brow furrowed with an unreadable mixture of fear and curiosity. What if it truly tears us apart? What then? Then we rebuild, she answered, her voice unwavering. I'm not afraid of the truth, Dad. Not anymore. The only thing worse than confronting our pain is letting it linger unaddressed. The room stilled as they locked eyes, a silent agreement flaring between them, a pact forged in the fire of uncertainty. It demanded courage from them both. Yet a part of her knew this was the only path to understand themselves and honor her mother's memory. Can you remember any particular moment? Something that illuminated her struggle? Sarah prodded, searching his gaze for fragments of insight she yearned to weave together. He shifted, a lost look escaping him as shadows danced across his features. There was one night I remember she sat at the kitchen table, staring out the window, the light from outside barely reaching her. I thought she was deep in thought, but now I wonder if she was just tired of pretending everything was fine. The confession struck a chord within Sarah, resonating with her own battles against the self-imposed facade of composure. It sounds like she carried so much, more than either of us realized, she murmured, wondering if hidden strength had transformed into an overwhelming burden. Do you think she felt she couldn't share that with us? A heavy pause hung in the air as Sarah watched her father wrestle with his memories, the deep lines on his face revealing the weight of regret. Maybe I should asked her more questions. Dug deeper, he admitted, vulnerability seeping through. I thought she had it under control. The reality is we both suffered in silence. Sarah sensed the shift, the echoes of shared pain igniting a flicker of hope in her chest. We have a chance to break that cycle. Let us vow not to let silence drown us again. Her voice firm, a lifeline extending toward him. Okay, he sighed, as if the very act of agreeing freed him from years of entrapment. What do you suggest we do? Well, for starters, we can begin by sharing our memories, good and bad. I can start. Without waiting for a response, Sarah delved into her more vivid recollections of her mother's laughter, the way her eyes sparkled when she read bedtime stories, and how she would offer advice wrapped in humor, making even the hardest lessons feel light. Each recollection was sacrosanct, a piece of her mother returning to life in the echoes of her voice. And then, she continued, we can discuss the moments that left us aching, the nights of doubts and worries that linger like shadows. We can finally confront why we allowed those experiences to shape us so acutely. Her father's brow furrowed deeper. You mean like assembling a map of our grief? More like crafting a route for healing, she corrected gently. Understanding where we've been will help us chart where we can go together. He offered a faint smile, but she could see the uncertainty in his eyes, a flicker of reticence. And if we stumble upon regrets, or things no one wants to admit, then we confront them, she insisted. Power comes from recognizing our weaknesses, Dad. We expose the shadows to let the light shine through. As the conversation deepened, Sarah could feel layers of her own coping mechanisms peeling away, one honest word at a time. This was not just about her father. It was about reclaiming her identity amidst a storm of unresolved emotions. It was transformative, each moment binding them into an intricate tapestry woven from pain, promise, and, ultimately, potential. With each memory they unearthed, Sarah found herself evolving. Her understanding of family, connection, and grief expanding in ways she never anticipated. What we uncover might not always feel good, but that's the price of true healing, she said, the weight of those words settling in the space between them. Let us take the next step, her father replied, a newfound resolve anchoring his voice. I'm ready to face what we've avoided all these years. In that precious moment, the trajectory of their paths shifted, and Sarah felt the fire of possibility ignite with urgency. But as they began to canvas the threads of their history, the stakes grew higher. What if the revelations were too painful? What if they shattered everything they understood about their family? Her heart raced with the uncertainty of it all, a chilling reminder of the risks they were taking, a sharp contrast to their shared commitment that loomed ahead. The weight of unspoken truths cascaded into the open, demanding her to question if they were truly prepared. As the silence deepened once more, an even more profound truth surfaced in her mind. This was only the beginning. The revelations of their past were about to storm their fragile present. But did they have the resilience needed to withstand it? With a deep breath, she grasped for the moments to come, her voice steady as she whispered, let us uncover everything together, no matter how hard it gets. The following day, the morning light broke through the kitchen window, bathing the room in a soft glow that felt foreign to both Sarah and her father. There was a palpable tension, a delicate thread of anticipation tethered to their unspoken promise from the night before. With a mug of coffee in her hands, Sarah leaned against the counter, replaying memories that tugged at her heartstrings. Each detail of the past pointed toward what was yet to be uncovered. Her father joined her, his movements deliberate, almost as if every action required conscious thought. Where do we start? He asked, his voice cautious yet tinged with an eager resolve. Sarah considered for a moment. A myriad of emotions churned within her, finally crystallizing into clarity. Let us begin with the things we thought we'd never say. The words we swallowed to keep peace. Her heart thudded. This was it. The pivotal moment where vulnerability would mold their future. He nodded, setting his coffee down with a thud that resonated in the silence. I never wanted you to see me weak, The admission shocked Sarah, reverberating through the air like the shattering of a glass. His eyes reflected not just remorse, but also a remorse that bordered on profound longing desire for resolution, a yearning to understand and be understood. "You're not weak," she replied, her voice gentle yet firm, "but we can't heal if we're still afraid of the truth." She felt an unexpected surge of conviction. Her father, a person she had often viewed as unshakable, now stood before her stripped of the armor he had wielded for years. Unwittingly, they had been replaying the roles of parent and child, a rhythm that denied them both agency and authenticity. Now she had the chance to redirect that narrative. "What about the times you struggled, when you felt lost?" He hesitated, the weight of the question pressing down as if it had gained physical form. "There were nights, countless nights, I sat across from your mother, and we'd just sit. I felt like a ghost in my own house." His words rippled through her, a chill and warmth merging, a reminder of the unspoken barriers they had erected. She realized those specters haunted not just the space around them, but their very identities. "You never had to be invisible," she asserted, her own heart pounding. "What made you feel that way?" "I didn't want to burden anyone," he confessed, his face falling into shadow. "I thought if I held it together you could have a normal life." "Dad, normal isn't the absence of pain. It's the acceptance of our struggles and finding ways to navigate through them together." It struck her, this was not merely about them. This was about generations of silence begging to scream, demanding to be heard. The acknowledgement sparked something within her, the realization of how often she had glossed over her pain, suffering in the silence she inherited. They were both tied to this legacy of suppressed emotions, shackled by fear of acknowledging their own vulnerabilities. "What if we compiled lists?" she proposed, a tentative strategy forming. "One side for our memories of Mom and the other for the moments we felt lost. We can start there." It was a small step, but it felt monumental, a pathway through the thicket of their grief. Her father rubbed a hand over his stubbled chin, a deep furrow settling between his brows. "What if it's too heavy?" The question hung between them, saturated with unexpressed fears. "Then we share the burden. That's the point." Her voice caught the edge of impatience, but she tempered it. The stakes were high, but perhaps they were exactly what they needed. The moment felt electric, resonant with possibility, yet fraught with uncertainty. "Okay, let us do it," he agreed, the conviction building in his voice. As they settled at the kitchen table, Sarah felt a sense of purpose crystallizing within her. Writing those truths shouldered the weight of generations, each word could echo a promise of healing. What would be revealed? What had they buried too deep that might resurface in this exploration? With the first strokes of the pencil on paper, a tide of memories surged. In that moment, a flicker of excitement danced alongside the dread. They were poised on the precipice of growing pains. She could taste the tangible potential of transformation on the horizon. But as they began to list their thoughts, a familiar fear wrapped itself around her heart. Fear of the unknown, fear of discovering that some things might be irreparable. As the words filled the page, she felt their weight, each letter a bridge to an uncertain future, one that could shred the fabric of their current lives or weave them anew. She paused to catch her breath, her hands trembling with the potential consequences that awaited beyond each word. Would they uncover strength or fracture further, dragging their family history deeper into the abyss? "Are you ready?" her father asked, genuinely seeking assurance not just for him but for both of them. In that moment, Sarah realized that the journey ahead was not just an exploration of their shared grief. It was an endeavor that could redefine who they would become. She nodded, steeling herself for the tempest of truths that lay hidden within their past. And as they began their writing, a voice whispered in the back of her mind, suggesting that what they unearth may not only transform their connection, but also challenge everything they thought they knew about love and legacy. Would they find empowerment? Or would this journey leave them irrevocably changed in ways they could never recover from? As Sarah and her father sat in the kitchen, a palpable shift resonated through the air. With the yellow notepad between them ready to absorb their hidden truths, the weight of their histories threatened to spill out, both a burden and a cathartic release. A flurry of thoughts accompanied her hesitation. What if these lists acted as a fissure opening long-sealed wounds? Yet, what alternatives lay before them? Silence once had the effect of pressing their lives into a stale mold. Now, it whispered of possible transformations. Taking a deep breath, Sarah broke the stillness. Let us do Mom's memories first. We can't ignore her presence in all of this. Her father nodded, face clouded with memories. There were nights when she would read to you. You used to fall asleep with her books in your arms. At the mention, a soft smile teased Sarah's lips, intermingled with deep sorrow for the time lost, the vibrant warmth of her mother fading into the past. I remember her voice, she said, her pen hovering above the paper, like a gentle current, always guiding. But I didn't realize then how much of her I'd be losing. Neither did I, her father added quietly. I took it for granted. Words poured forth, slow at first, but soon they picked up momentum. Each memory they wrote took form, bridging them from their shared past into a journey of reconciliation. Joy, laughter, heartbreak. They confronted fragments of love and loss, words flowing like an open stream that could no longer be dammed. Would it even matter what we lost? Sarah questioned at one point, the stark reality creeping into her mind. I mean, weren't we all just fumbling along, pretending we had everything under control? Her father's brow furrowed deeper, contemplating her words. Maybe control wasn't the goal. Perhaps it was a reflection of fear, or the desire to protect ourselves. As she glanced down, the memories began morphing into a reflective tapestry of their lives. Sarah realized each entry guided not just to their past but illuminated her father's struggles as well. The mornings of solitude he faced while he tried to assemble the remnants of their family without a map. It struck her then, a revelation dawning. His reluctance to express vulnerabilities had roots anchored deep in the need to shield her from trauma. Dad. She leaned in, her voice softer now. What if we also explored moments where you felt lost? Where you couldn't just pretend? Because beneath the surface, moments lingered like neglected debris wounds that festered simply because they were never addressed. He looked away, swallowing hard. There were days I woke up feeling suffocated by expectations my own. Societal ones, like I had to wear a mask for the world. I was scared of failing, so I just shut down. Each of his revelations peeled back layers on her father's persona, unraveling the stoic figure she had always perceived. She studied him, understanding now that while she grappled with the grief of her mother, he too bore immeasurable burdens. His frustration had often translated to silence, further complicating her own feelings of inadequacy. What if we put that on the list? The words slipped out before she could rethink. A reckoning of sorts. Times when we felt like we were drowning, but instead of reaching out, we pushed each other away. The silence that followed felt heavy with possibility. I think that might be too much, he finally replied, his voice pained but hopeful. Maybe, but we can't heal if we don't face this, she asserted, an unexpected strength surging through her. Let us embrace the discomfort. Let us turn it into something we can own. And so, they began to write against the tide, mapping the distress of isolation that confronted them both. With every acknowledgement, each line revealed redemptive potential, an opportunity to mend not just their individual experiences but the very fabric of their kinship. Yet as Sarah penned each painful truth, a familiar shadow loomed. What did this new understanding mean? Was it merely the opening of wounds, or the beginning of a healing revolution? Vague anxiety plucked at her mind. Could they survive the confrontation that lay ahead of them in this revelation? Can we truly move on from the ghosts of our past? She finally asked, her hand trembling against the notepad. Her father paused, meeting her eyes with an unsettling earnestness. The time had come to face what we've avoided for so long. In that charged space, Sarah realized they were on a defining path, a staircase of vulnerability, leading to a summit of clarity, where the view could either liberate them or plunge them into further darkness. Would she find solace in their discoveries, or face the bitter truth that could unravel everything they thought they knew? The answer echoed ominously within her. They were only just beginning to scratch the surface of what lay hidden in the depths. As they continued to scribble truths onto the page, Sarah felt the weight of her emotions shift from pure dread to a forceful pulse of determination. Each word became an anchor, holding them steady as they navigated treacherous waters. With every shared memory, realizations dawned, a kaleidoscope of past pains unleashing whispers of communication long stifled. "Here's one," her father said, breaking the spiral of silence. "I remember the day you tried out for the school play. I'd never seen you so nervous but so brave at the same time. You stepped onto that stage like a lighthouse in a storm." He paused, reflecting. "But afterwards, when you didn't get the part, I didn't know how to support you. I wish I'd told you it was okay to fail." The memory struck Sarah with the weight of unprocessed emotions. "That was everything to me. It felt like I'd let you down, like I let everyone down," she confessed, her voice trembling, revealing hidden insecurities. "I should have reassured you that your worth wasn't defined by that one moment," he admitted, remorse seeping into his words. "I only amplified the silence because I thought it would protect you from disappointment." Pain and relief coalesced in the air, transforming into an unexpected revelation. Her father's perception of inadequacy mirrored her own. Each moment they had pushed away from vulnerability created a chasm that left both of them gasping for understanding. Here lay a fertile ground for change, yet unease coiled tightly within her. "Do you think we misjudged ourselves?" Sarah asked, her pen stilling momentarily, bracing for her father's response. "What if our expectations are what led us to falter?" "Perhaps," he sighed, shoulders visibly relaxing under the gentle weight of their newfound honesty. "Maybe we held too firmly onto societal norms what it means to be strong." A realization brushed against Sarah's consciousness, inspiring a cascade of thoughts. She remembered times when she prioritized perfection over authenticity, downplaying her emotions to fit into a role she felt she needed to play. "Maybe we're not as different as I thought. I've let the fear of failing hold me back as well." Her father's gaze softened, an echo of understanding passing between them. "We have worn masks for so long, thinking they made us invincible, but the truth is beneath our armor. We deserved to be genuinely seen." Inspired by the connection, Sarah leaned forward with determination. "Let us redefine what strength looks like for us. Let's write about the moments we found courage in vulnerability, not just in successes." The room fell quiet once more, but this time with a shared sense of expectation. With a collective breath, they began to explore instances when stepping into the light of truth had briefly cut through the fog, a small voice interrupting the noise of their lives. "I think about the time after your mother passed," her father began, his voice steady but soft. "When you gathered the courage to speak at her memorial. You were so brave, and I was frightened of losing you like I lost her. And yet, in that moment, I had to face the truth of my grief," Sarah replied, recognizing the threading of their narratives. As they continued, the process of writing became an unearthing of buried emotions, each entry transforming past regrets into invaluable lessons. Yet, shadows still lingered, deep uncertainties about the true impact of their revelations gnawed at Sarah. Would addressing their vulnerabilities expose deeper fractures? Could they withstand the truth that lay behind each memory they unearthed? Doubt and resolve wove together in her mind as she moved the pen across the page. With honesty came power, but was it powerful enough to break down barriers that had become their mutual fortress? As she finished another line, an unsettling realization crept in. The ghosts of their past began to materialize, whispering doubts that shrouded their efforts. Would exposing raw realities serve as liberation or escalation? With a new intensity, Sarah wondered one last time. Was it possible to emerge intact when confronting the vulnerabilities that now fully defined them? In that moment, the door to a deeper understanding loomed ahead, yet the uncertainty of what lay behind it caused her heart to race. How far would they go in their delving pursuit of truth? And were they truly ready for the memories buried beneath their facades? Determined to face whatever came next, Sarah took a steadying breath. The time had come for a true confrontation. As the silence hung thick in the air, Sarah's fingers hesitated over the page. The stark white surface felt like a blank slate, a canvas for their shared truths, but also a battlefield where her insecurities battled against her ambition for growth. She could almost hear the distant echoes of their past, reverberating in sync with the rhythmic thud of her heartbeat. The truth had become a siren song, beckoning her to sail toward uncharted waters, yet a flicker of fear threatened to keep her anchored in familiar territory. "What if we just let it all out?" Sarah suggested, her voice steadier now, fortifying herself with each word. "We could write about our biggest fears, everything we've buried too deep to confront." Her father's brows knitted together, contemplating the gravity of her proposal. "You think it would help? To lay everything bare?" "Yes," she replied, surprising herself with her conviction. "If we don't acknowledge it, we'll never move past it. I want to feel liberated, not just for us to understand each other, but for me to finally confront everything I've tried to hide." He nodded slowly, the weight of her proposition obviously sinking in. For a moment, the air shifted. She could almost feel the walls between them crumbling. What had been taboo was now an intriguing possibility, enticing her forward into the uncertain depths of self-discovery. Gathering her thoughts into a coherent structure, Sarah began. "I fear not being enough," she scribbled, the ink flowing like a river of pent-up emotions. "Not enough for my art, my relationships, not even for myself. Sometimes, I feel lost, like I'm playing a role woven by someone else's expectations." "That's a heavy load," her father remarked, studying her words as if they held the key to some ancient riddle. "I never realized you felt like that." His admission triggered something within her, a wave of gratitude mixed with an urgency to keep the dialogue flowing. "And yet, I wear it like armor," she continued, vulnerability spilling onto the paper. "I chase perfection, achieving little, all while feeling like I'm dancing in the shadows of others' perceived successes." The sudden heat of revelation tinged her cheeks. Sarah glanced up, and for the first time, she saw in her father's eyes not just sympathy but recognition. They were diving deeper now, exposing the truths that often reside in dark corners. "You're not alone in feeling that," he finally confessed, the honesty in his voice breaking the tension. "I've battled similar thoughts, always scared of falling short. The pressure to provide, to be the strong one, it can swallow you whole." The exchange sparked an electric connection, a bond of mutual understanding. Each word, each confession became a ripple effect, dismantling barriers they hadn't comprehended were there. Sarah could sense the power of their shared admissions. Not only were they unearthing the roots of their fears, but they were also threading their stories together in a way that heralded potential healing. Realization struck Sarah as she considered her father's words. What if that authenticity, the raw expressions of their experiences, could become their greatest strength? But her mind spiraled back to the looming doubts. Would they be brave enough to face what lay beneath? Would their willingness to reveal these buried truths really foster growth or extend the journey of unraveling pain? A chill crept along her spine. What if this pushes us further apart? She whispered, apprehension lacing her tone. Her father met her apprehensive gaze, resolute determination in his. "We have to believe it can connect us, instead maybe even redefine how we see ourselves." With a renewed sense of purpose, Sarah took in a deep breath and prepared to write again. They had embarked on a journey of discoveries, but the shadows were still lurking, the ghosts of their past eager for confrontation. What revelations awaited them as they continued to peel back layers of both shared and individual truths? As her pen danced across the page, she couldn't shake the feeling they were on the edge of a transformative revelation. The veils of their fears had begun to lift, but with each layer they uncovered, the question persisted: how would they emerge from the confrontation that was unavoidably ahead? Sarah's eyes flickered toward the door, imagination racing with curiosity and caution. The next chapter awaited them, filled with uncharted terrains and questions yet to be answered. What other secrets would surface, and who would they become on the other side of this daunting exploration? The morning sunlight poured through the kitchen window, illuminating the yellow notepad plastered with their raw truths, each line etched in ink like an emotional roadmap of discovery. Sarah and her father sat across from each other, the air thick with both anticipation and trepidation. They had breached the silence that had woven around them for years. But would their revelations forge a stronger bond, or would they further unravel what little they had left? "Let us keep going," Sarah said, her pulse thrumming with urgency. "We have a shared history to confront, and today we reclaim that power." Her father's nod signaled his agreement, a flicker of determination igniting in his eyes. The desire hadn't merely been to rewrite the losses, but to recreate the fabric of their relationship, an endeavor ripe with vulnerability and courage. "All right," he said, closing his eyes briefly as if summoning the memories to the forefront. "I've always been scared of being seen as vulnerable. The day your mother fell ill, I felt so helpless. I thought keeping my emotions hidden would protect you." His voice trembled but held a thread of resolution. Sarah's heart clenched. "But what if your vulnerability could have been our strength? I needed you more than ever, and I know you needed me too." The weight of her words felt heavy, yet liberating, as if the very act of speaking unveiled more than just their secrets. He opened his eyes, and a spark of recognition passed between them. "You're right. That silence only transported us further into isolation. I thought I was doing the right thing," he admitted, a tinge of disappointment evident in his tone. "What if we transform that fear?" She leaned forward, excitement buoying her own heart. "Let us define vulnerability as a form of strength, something to embrace rather than shy away from." Her father's expression shifted, contemplation deepening his features as he grappled with the implications. "You mean approaching life with honesty, no matter how daunting it feels?" "Exactly." They exchanged a knowing glance, acknowledging that this perspective could shift how they perceived not just their grief, but their relationship moving forward. With renewed resolve, they returned to their lists, Sarah's eyes dancing over the words they had penned. "What if we challenge ourselves to write about how we can show up for each other moving forward? How can we rise above past fears?" They began brainstorming, and line after line emerged, detailing sacred commitments to embrace the unfiltered truth in daily lives, understanding their struggles, offering support, allowing failures without judgment, and most importantly, fostering open communication. As the ink met paper, something remarkable occurred. The mere act of envisioning their future transformed the way they framed their past struggles and fears. They began exploring not just what they had endured, but how their evolving journey could intertwine their fixed points of hurt into a living tapestry of resilience. "I'm proud of us," Sarah reflected as they continued writing. The ink had become a vessel for clarity, binding them in shared aspirations to rise above setbacks. The weight of their previous silence lifted, replaced by a buoyant hope that felt electric. But perhaps the real challenge lay ahead. Sarah's stomach tightened with the recognition that these discussions, as liberating as they were, also rippled into uncharted waters. What truths still lay behind the curtain of their collective history? What if they stumbled upon aspects of their identity that threatened to fracture the very bond they were rebuilding? "Sarah," her father's voice broke into her thoughts. "I'm afraid." "Of what, Dad?" she pressed, her brow furrowing with concern. "Of losing the fragments of myself I've clung to for so long," he confessed, the raw edges of his struggle framing the vulnerability in his outline, like a shadow cast by an unwavering light. "Perhaps each fragment isn't meant to define us but rather guide us," she suggested gingerly, leaning in. "What if letting go of those pieces allows for new forms of connection, new strengths we haven't even imagined?" Her father met her gaze, the flicker of uncertainty slowly transforming into a strong gleam of recognition. "Maybe you're right. Letting go is terrifying, but it's also a chance for growth." With each stroke of the pen, they began laying the foundation for this new truth, a truth that transcended the burdens of their past and vied for a reconnective, dynamic bond they hadn't dared to dream of until now. They were not simply acknowledging the pain but also cultivating resilience, redefining strength against a backdrop of vulnerability. By the end of the afternoon, the table before them overflowed with their truths, thoughts, fears, promises, visions, a testament to their individual journeys and one shared path. They found themselves gazing at the pages, a mix of pride and trepidation rolling over them. "What's next?" he asked softly. Together, They embarked on a commitment to understanding their narratives, an exploration of ensuring the burdens of their past offered guidance rather than shackles. As they stood at the precipice of newfound honesty, Sarah could feel the embers of transformation crackling in the air, an inevitable shift that would demand accountability, love, and nurturing in their relationship moving forward. It was no longer just about observing the truth. It was about living it, allowing their bond to flourish within the spaces left vacant by silence and strife. Linking arms with her father, she knew they were moving toward something profound, something that would forge their paths anew in the warmth of shared vulnerability. In that sanctuary of knowledge, Sarah returned to the promise they had made earlier. They would shine light on their past while creating the bridge to a resilient future. Each memory, each buried emotion unearthed, would allow them to mold a deeper connection, transforming stress into strength, fear into empowerment, silence into a shared song of healing. They stood at the precipice no longer afraid but emboldened, ready to embrace each step of their path, echoes of laughter mingling with the whispers of healing. Together, they were reclaiming the narrative of their lives, ready to write a story that spanned generations, one where pain seamlessly interwove with redemption and where strength thrived through vulnerability. The moment became a reflection no longer anchored by loss and fear, but buoyed by the shared resolve to thrive beyond the past, reclaiming their legacy of courage and love. Now is the time to act. You need to subscribe now to witness more powerful transformations like Sarah's. Don't wait even one more second to share this with friends who need to see this inspiring journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and comment your thoughts, reactions, and theories about Sarah's remarkable journey. Join in and be part of this growing community of resilience and hope.